Have you ever watched your child struggle with reading and wondered if there was a better way? What if dyslexics' brains aren't broken, they are just wired differently? My guest today, Russell van Brocklen, struggled with severe dyslexia growing up. Now he is helping dyslexic students absolutely thrive. In this conversation, Russell shares powerful strategies that work, simple writing techniques, reading methods that stick, and how to build your child's self-confidence. These are proven methods he uses every single day. If your child learns differently, you need to hear this. Welcome to Single Parent Success Stories, a podcast designed to inspire single parents. Here you'll find resources from self-care to finances to parenting and everything in between. Discover what it takes to thrive. Let the stories inspire you to what is possible. This holiday season, skip the candles and gift cards. Give the woman in your life something that truly matters, or better yet, give it to yourself. The gift inside is for every woman who spent decades being everything to everyone else. It's time to remember who you are and rediscover your happiness. This isn't just a book, it's a permission to put yourself first again. Available now. Because the best gift you can give is helping someone find themselves. Guest Russell van Brocklen. He is also known as the Dyslexic Professor. He is a New York State Senate-funded dyslexia researcher and the founding consultant of DyslexiaClasses.com. Severely dyslexic himself, Russell developed innovative programs that elevate dyslexic high school students' writing from middle school struggles to graduate-level proficiency, transforming educational challenges into lifelong strengths. He is passionate about empowering families and educators with practical, affordable tools to unlock the extraordinary potential of dyslexic learners. Welcome, Russell. It is a pleasure to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So please share with us who you are in your own words.
Well, I have a really severe case of dyslexia. I decided to go on to graduate school. I first started to audit law classes for contracts and property with a first grade reading and writing level. Why did I do that? In the late 90s, I participated in the New York State Assembly internship program, and with a first grade reading and writing level, I ended up giving an oral presentation for my academic research instead of a written paper, which was very standard for me at the time. And they recommended 15 credits of A-. But the political science department at the State University Center of Buffalo decided, we don't like those accommodations. So here's your 15 credits of F, okay? Never happened before in the history of the program. 27 years since then, it hasn't happened again. So I just got so angry at it, I said, enough of this. So I audited law classes with a first grade reading and writing level, solved my reading issues within a month, and then it took me a few more years to solve the writing concerns. Then I wanted to share what I learned with everybody, so I decided to have the New York State government fund my research. And my professor said, we can't do that. It's not going to happen. Well, it did. So what we did is I decided to not have the students go through the heck I went through. So I went back to my old high school, Averill Park Central School District, right outside of Albany, New York, and I decided to take the most motivated dyslexic students with high intelligence, excellent family support going on to college, essentially the ideal. And we picked their best special ed teacher. Her name was Susan Ford. Took less than 4 hours to train Susan in my process, and we ended up, it was one class period a day for the school year, and the students went from middle school writing skills to the average range of entering graduate school students based on the Graduate Records Exam Analytical Writing Assessment. They all went on to college. They all graduated, no accommodations, grade point averages of 2.5 to 3.6. Cost New York State less than $900 a student. At that point, I thought I was done. I thought I did something major. I was wrong. The professors came to me and said, you had some students scoring in the 70th percentile of entering graduate students. We don't care. We want the craft of research. I said, the craft of what? Craft of Research. It's a book published in 1995 by the University of Chicago because their PhD students didn't know how to write graduate level research papers. I was like, okay. And I got to drop that to what I found to 9-year-olds in fourth grade. In the fifth edition, it's for advanced high school kids, and I dropped it to 9-year-olds. The second thing I found for teachers is they asked, what about typical students? I said, okay, I got to work with that as well and do the craft of research. Oh, fun. Okay. So I first understood is when we wanted to work with typical students. Have you ever found with your kids, you want them to do some academic work and they don't like the subject and they're just fighting you back like crazy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Here's how you get around that for dyslexic kids, but also everybody else. What's the name of your oldest child?
Neptune.
Neptune. Okay. And how old is Neptune?
16.
16. Okay. And what we, first of all, have to just find out what is Neptune's speciality. That's his area of extreme interest and ability. And typically what I do is I ask, what is it that Neptune, imagining the Saturday morning, Neptune could do whatever he wanted. What would it be?
Doing art and science.
Okay. Does he like art better or science better?
I think they're equal. Equal.
Okay. What type of science does he like?
Earth science, nature.
Nature. Okay. All right. So I want you to imagine we want to keep Neptune interested in his academic work. If we focused on a book that he was really interested in on earth science and nature, do you think we would have his interest?
Probably.
Yes. Now with a dyslexic student, it's much even more so. They're extremely interested. Same thing with ADD and ADHD kids. So the next thing we have to figure out is Neptune ADD, ADHD, or dyslexic? We ask the first question for that. I would ask Neptune, do you have, when you're thinking about nature, when you're thinking about earth science, do you have ideas flying around your head at light speed? Key question, but with little to no organization. All right. And because at 16, you pretty well know now, in your case, probably be no. But if he was dyslexic or ADD or ADHD, he would say yes. Then I would have to find, Neptune, are you severely dyslexic? How we would do that, fingers, keyboard, fingers, keyboard. You want to type something about nature, about earth science. It's in your head. When you take your fingers and put them on the keyboard, does the idea fly out of your head, leaving you with an empty brain? If he answers yes to that, that's a severe case of dyslexia. All right. Now that's just for treatment purposes only, but I just essentially saved you $5,000 for a neuropsychological evaluation.
Cool. What happens if the kid all they want to do is play video games? If they like,
For boys, I ban video games. I completely ban them. I have literally had parents where the kid wouldn't do their work because they were so addicted to video games. I'm addicted to video games. How do I deal with it? I don't have them in my house. All right. I have literally had parents take the video games, and one parent wanted to smash it in the driveway. I said, no, get a tax deduction, bring it down to Goodwill. They got some good kids that need that sort of thing. So they took the whole thing down and got rid of it until the kid could read and write again. I mean, they're horribly addictive for boys. So by doing that, what we found from once they answer yes, no, or yes, yes, then what I tell parents is what we're going to do is we're going to force the brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output. Okay? And that brings us to the second part of the model. The first part is this child speciality. But then what you really need to know when you're dealing with ADD, ADHD kids or mild or severe dyslexia is you can't teach them from the general to the specific.
mm-hmm.
Okay? Because that's like, for example, what effect did Martin Luther King's famous I Have a Dream speech have on the American Civil Rights Movement in the 1960s? Give that to a gen ed student, they're off, okay? But if they're dyslexic, remember that question I said, ideas flying around your head at light speed, but with little to no organization? Nothing to latch onto. So then what we do is we go ahead and we ask from the specific to the general. That gives us an anchor point to move from. And when we do that, we ask a question like, what personally compelled Martin Luther King to want to give his famous speech? Because when we do that, now we have an anchor point and we can go out from that. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, then we come to the last part. Anytime somebody says they have something new to say in the field of dyslexia, and it's not directly based on Orton Gillingham multi-sensory structured language approach, you have to be very cautious. Here's my research. It's based on this book from Yale, Brain Imaging. This is the top one in my field. About to show you dyslexia and all the hard science. Right there. Now, I'm not going to use the word non-impaired because I find it insulting. I'm going to use Gen Ed. So I want you to look at the back of the Gen Ed brain. Do you see all that massive neural activity?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you look at the back of the dyslexic brain, do you see how there's virtually none?
Yes.
But if you look at the back of the front part of the dyslexic brain, do you see how the front part's about 2.5 times overactive?
I do. Yeah.
Yep. That's what I base my science on. Yale says initially it's word analysis, it was articulation followed by word analysis. So that's what we did with the graduate record exam arguments. We had them articulate first, very little word analysis. But then when I was asked, how do I work with everybody? I swapped that around to word analysis followed by articulation. So let me give you an example of how that works. Have you ever met a child who was well beyond first grade, maybe third, fourth, fifth grade, and they couldn't write? They were essentially writing randomly placed misspelled words. Okay. I'm going to now show you how you can take these dyslexic students and have them write a basic 3-word sentence. Okay. And instead of taking weeks like Orton Gillingham, I'll show you how to do it in 5 minutes.
All right.
All right, so here's what I want you to focus on. First of all, let's name the student. The name of the student, who's the name of the student? You can make up one that was writing randomly placed misspelled words that you knew about.
John.
John? Okay. Okay, now we have to go and find John's speciality. What is John really into?
I don't know. Rock climbing.
Rock climbing. So we're going to start out. We're gonna have the student type instead of handwriting. Why not handwriting? Because when you have to handwrite the letter W, it takes up so much brain energy and coordination. A lot easier just to type the key. Okay? So we're going to have hero, plus sign, what are we talking about? We're going to place hero with John. John, plus sign, what are we talking about? John, plus sign, rock climbing. Make sense?
Yes.
So now we have to replace the plus sign with a word that completes the sentence. All right. Now, when I do this at major dyslexia conferences, the teachers plus get it wrong. All right. So you have to follow what I say exactly or you're going to get it wrong. So do you think I'm going to be able to fool you?
I don't know. Let's find out.
Let's try it. Okay. Here's the question. We have John plus sign rock climbing. We need to replace the plus sign with a word. Here's my question. Does John like or dislike rock climbing?
Like.
Okay, good. Now replace the plus sign with that word, and what's the answer? What's the complete 3-word sentence?
John likes rock climbing.
You answered it correctly the first time, but not the second. Remember I asked, does John like or dislike rock climbing? You said like. And then we replaced the word, you automatically added the S.
Yes.
John's dyslexic. He doesn't know how to add the S.
Okay.
Now it gets really complicated on how do we get John to add the S. There is a big thing out there where with multisensory where you see it, touch it, hear it, every sentence you can imagine. It takes a long time to go through all that and to teach a child to add the letter S. A way around that is I have to make an assumption. I assume that John speaks proper English in order to do this. The parents speak proper English outside of some concern. The kids generally speak proper English. So assuming that case, I asked John, do you like or dislike? Because I asked, do you like or dislike? He would say like. And then I'd say replace it with a plus sign. Now, how do we get him to add the S? I would say, John, read the sentence out loud, and does it sound generally correct? He's going to say no. I'm going to say fix it. So he fixes it. John likes rock climbing. Okay? Now, the like or dislike is a very simple form of word analysis, but now we have to add articulation. Because, reason one, John likes rock climbing because, give me a simple reason why he likes rock climbing.
It's fun.
Because it's fun. Okay, now, at this point, you're probably going to notice that John's writing a lot of misspelled words. Here's how we fix that. When we did the original program, the students spent very little time on spelling and grammar. So it auto-corrected it from middle school to grad level. So how do we get these students to autocorrect their spelling and grammar? Here's how we do it. John likes rock climbing because it's fun. We tell John, don't put the period down, ask any question you like. So maybe he would put the period down and say, did I spell rock climbing correct? And if he didn't, what you can do is say, okay, no, you didn't spell it correctly. You type it out. He copies it. Copying default writing strategy, Professor James Collins' strategies for struggling writers. And because he didn't put the period down, he can ask you any question. And if you can tell him if he made the mistake and what the correction is, he just has to retype that part. But if he puts the period down and there's still a spelling mistake or a major grammatical mistake, and I mean a major grammatical mistake, then he has to retype the entire sentence. So what does John do? He drops the period. Most of them do. And then they keep making the same mistake over and over again. So then they concentrate more and more. And finally, they keep telling themselves, I'm not going to make that mistake. They retype it. They make the mistake until they're concentrating so incredibly hard. Sometimes you see sweat coming down their face. So sometime between 3 and 12 times, they will get it right. All right. And when they're making the mistake, what I found the two least offensive things I could say is John, you made a silly mistake or a silly error. Pick which one you like. And then eventually they're going to concentrate so hard that during that concentration, that's where the magic happens. And he'll get it correct.
Mm-hmm.
We do 10 likes and 10 dislikes until it's all correct. Then we do reason one, 10 likes, 10 dislikes. Then we'll take reason one and reason two and connect it with a glue word and. Okay, same thing. Now, when we come to 3 reasons, here's the question I have for you. Are you a 1 comma person or a 2 comma person?
Depends on the sentence.
Are you like John likes climbing because it's fun, comma, he likes the outside, and he likes being with his friends? Or are you John likes rock climbing because it's fun, comma, he likes being outside, comma, and he likes being with his friends? Are you a 1 comma person or a 2 comma person? Okay. Then your kids would be 1 comma kids. That goes in their individual education plan, and it stays there forever. Now, that may not seem like much, but during those 80 perfect sentences, plus whatever amount of repetition it takes, you have just moved that kid from kindergarten reading and writing to end of 2nd, beginning 3rd grade level. Because remember, all the words have to be spelled correctly. Here's a little secret. If you can write it, you can read it. Make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So now, do you remember how I told you I had to do the craft of research?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So the craft of research is based on 3 different levels: context, getting everybody on the same page, problem, and then a solution. And then for the solution, if you don't come up with something at least modestly original, where the reader actually learns something, then the craft of research says, don't write the paper, which pretty much eliminates almost every undergraduate and high school paper in North America. All right. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through now. How do we get through the problem level? Because that that generally will get a lot of kids through middle school, high school, and unfortunately a good chunk of college. Okay? So the next thing we had to focus on, how do we get these kids to read? All right, so I want you to think about where this typically ends up in high school. The kids are applying to college and they're looking at the vocabulary section of the ACT or the SAT. And these are essentially vocabulary tests. So how do we build up a large and permanent vocabulary? Well, I have this weird idea. Here again is the science. I'm going to use that overactive front part of the brain, and we're going to further advance word analysis followed by articulation. So now your oldest son, his name again is what?
Neptune?
Neptune. Okay. So Neptune is really into earth science. Okay. So let's go ahead and I'm going to show you how we're going to start expanding Neptune's vocabulary considerably. All right. And you can start doing this. I prefer to start this at the earliest at the beginning of fourth grade when they're 9. Okay. So first thing we need to do is we're going to make Neptune the hero. Our formula is hero, universal theme, optimum villain. So Neptune, what does he want to do with earth science? What does he want to do in one sentence?
I don't know, perform experiments?
Neptune wants to perform experiments in earth science. Okay. Now we need to apply word analysis. So I'm looking for 2 types of words. One's an action word. One's the most important word. All right. Now, what the action word takes a person and brings them takes the hero towards their general goal. So Neptune wants to perform earth science experiments. What's the action word in that sentence?
Want?
Wants. Now, what's the most important word in that sentence?
Experiments?
Experiments. Okay. Now, I tend to recommend the more advanced concept. Most of the time, it's the most important word, but sometimes it's the action word, but not in this case. So we're going to go with experiments. Okay. So that is now our base universal theme. So to make sure Neptune knows the word, I would have him go ahead and type out experiment, and then I'd go to Merriam-Webster's online dictionary. Here's the key thing. You cannot copy and paste. You have to type it out or it's worthless. So he picks his definition and he types out experiment, $, and then he types out the definition. Now, how many times does he need to type out the definition until he knows it? Some people say 3, sometimes it's 20. I don't know what the number is for your child, but at some point they will get it. And then at this point, I always get parents say this, my kid won't do the work. And I say, exactly, because you're not following the 3-step model. You have to be in his speciality, okay? I get them an audiobook and a book in their speciality. All right? So we would find some book that was really on, like earth science, that he's interested in, that gives him room to grow into reading. And then you'll be amazed for dyslexic kids and ADD kids and ADHD kids, they will do the work. For example, this is a book from one of my most successful students. Her name is Casey. She was 10 years old, 2nd grade reading level, and I give her this monster. This is 900 pages, won the Pulitzer. I never saw what she did before. I'll never see it again, not at that age. In 6 months, she was in her room 2 hours a night, 3 hours a night, summer almost all day, going through a similar process. And at the end of 6 months, she knew every word in that book. She was in a silent reading class in 6th grade. Students came over, took her book from her and said, what's this? She said it was for an outside reading program. None of them could get past the first paragraph. And she could read it fluently. All right? So if a 10-year-old can do this, parents can teach their kids. All right? So what we would do is we would then take experiment, put it into the thesaurus. And your parents can choose 5 synonyms, 10, 15, the whole level, multiple levels, whatever you choose. What's happening is for each word, unless the child absolutely knows it, they're going to type out the word, go to the Merriam-Webster's online dictionary, find their definition, type it out. You see, as you keep doing this, you're going to keep going over the same words again and again, and at some point you're going to know them. They're going to pick what they're looking for is the word that best has a definition that best fits what's in their head. And everybody's different. But for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to keep with experiment just for this example. Let's call that now our post-universal thing. Now we need to pick an optimum villain that can prevent the hero from accomplishing their goals. So is it a person or a concept that can help prevent Neptune from doing earth science experiments? Who's best able to say, no, you can't do that? What's that?
Concept.
Okay, what concept is it?
I don't know. You pick one.
No. What concept could prevent him from doing that?
I don't know.
I'm going to pick legal age.
Okay.
He's a minor. So in our country, when they're 17 and 364 days, we treat them like they're 5. The day they turn 18, now with a wave of the magic wand, they have all the rights and responsibilities in most areas that we do. The kids love that one. Nothing gradual, you're now an adult. Okay, so I'm just going to put legal age. So we have Neptune, plus sign experiments, Neptune plus sign earth science experiments, plus sign legal age. Neptune wants to perform earth science experiments, but he can't because he's underage.
Okay.
See how we got there?
Yes.
So now, all right, let's say we had an article written about this, but we wanted to write a paper on an article. What we would do is we would say because and come up with 3 reasons. Each reason we would turn into a simple universal theme and then go and find a quote that deals with it. No quote, no body paragraph. Then we find 3 quotes. And we answer who, what, when, where, how, why, based on the quote. We put all that stuff together, separated by plus signs, reorganize it so it makes more sense, and then I ask the dyslexic student to read it out loud without the plus signs. Does that sound correct? And they say, no. They say, this looks like a drunk person wrote it. And I say, okay, fix the drunk person's writing. And they go through sentence by sentence until it sounds correct, moving things around. Because again, that's what the plus signs indicate. Add words, subtract words, and move it around until they have 3 decent paragraphs. Same rules with spelling, make sure it's spelled correctly, major grammatical issues. Why do I keep saying major grammatical issues? Because what we're trying to do is get rid of the really nasty stuff that the teachers don't know what to work with. They can deal with simple and moderate grammar issues. They can't deal with the major stuff. All right. So we get that cleaned up. We have 3 body paragraphs. Now, how do we move on to the problem, which is at a drastically higher level? And I'm just going to show you what the transition is. All right, the body paragraphs get way too complicated to do in a podcast because they're at such a high level. So what we do is this is where I start introducing artificial intelligence. We take the quote, the who, what, when, where, how, why, that's 1, and we do that for all 3 body paragraphs. We need to reduce this to a medium to long sentence. So how we do that is we just start looking at, do we really need the when here or the how there? If it's not critically important, we just get rid of it. And we keep using the artificial intelligence to shrink that down to a medium to long sentence. Once we have that, we now have to come up with a problem statement. How we do that is we try that on ourselves just to make sure it's correct. We go to the artificial intelligence and we say, help us reduce this medium to long context to a short to medium length sentence. That's a problem. Once we do that, then we reduce it to a 1-word universal theme. Once you can do that at least half the time on your own, it's time to consider if you're ready to move on to the solution end of things. So you come up with your universal theme. Then we take the context sentence that's medium to long, and we run it through the universal theme as a lens, and we come up with 3 answers. Okay, 3 solutions. These are not unique solutions. These are solutions you would expect from a well-read student. Okay? And each one of those solutions will be a body paragraph at the solutions level, which is far more complicated and can effectively be used in college. And I tend to use that at sixth graders, sometimes fifth graders. And that's pretty much how you do it.
Awesome. I love it. Amazing
Okay.
that you've discovered that.
Well, it just took 20 years. I mean, literally, it took 20 years to do this. But when I'm looking at the problem level, those paragraphs are far more evolved than most students in high school will ever get to. And then we still have the solution, which is where 70% of the value of what I teach is. I want you to imagine this. Remember back in high school when you did Romeo and Juliet? What do you think the chances are of your teacher learning anything from any of the students when they wrote a paper on Romeo and Juliet?
Probably nothing.
Yeah, they've been writing, even the most advanced kids have been writing the same papers for the past 100 plus years. You follow, when we get to the solution, you follow that process. The teacher would learn something at least moderately original from every paper. Teachers are shocked when that happens. It's then reduced to a formula. So, but that'll give you an idea, and that should bring the students' reading and writing level up to grade level and beyond.
Yeah, totally. Thank you.
Okay. What questions do you have on that? Because I know I just threw a lot at you.
Why do you believe most dyslexia education programs aren't effective despite widespread use?
Because they are completely going against how we work again. So how our brains work again. So here's the research. Here's the brain scan. Okay, let's start off with what our system does. Our system wants us to become well-rounded educationally before we specialize. All right, let's just look at your own son, Neptune, who you said isn't dyslexic. We just exemplify this. If he were in graduate school in earth science and all you had to work on was earth science, do you think he'd be a lot happier kid?
Yes.
Exactly. Dyslexics don't do well until we hit grad school, and then we're top of our class day one. It's our speciality. So especially our K through 12 system goes the exact opposite against that. Secondly, when I asked the dyslexic students, do you have in your speciality ideas flying around your head at light speed but with little to no organization? Yes, that's our biggest problem. So what does the school do? It teaches us from the general to the specific. What triggered World War II? Huh? We got nothing to latch on to. We have to go from the specific to the general. So that's number two that they go up against. And then number three, we do word analysis followed by articulation because that's what the research from Yale shows us. Do they do that? No. So they go completely against my model and wonder why the dyslexics have such a horrible time. We do horribly, and then they call us learning disabled. Here's an analogy. What sport are you absolutely horrible at? For me, it's basketball. What sport are you horrible at?
I don't know. Soccer?
Okay, soccer. Imagine your earnings were tied to how well you played soccer. Yes, okay. That's what normal school is like for dyslexics. I am no good at this. Go do it anyway. We don't care. Okay. Yeah. And adults get a lot of laughs about it when I say that. But when you talk to a dyslexic kid, they're like, no, really, that's what it's like.
For a parent watching their dyslexic child shut down and dread reading, what one step they can take right now to rekindle their interest and confidence in reading?
Find a book they're interested in. I can give you an example. This is my most popular by far.
Okay.
Walt Disney, The Triumph of the American Imagination. 1,000 pages of it. And I give this to dyslexic kids as young as 10. How can they read that monster? So it's the same thing Casey did. That's just a bit bigger. I'll give you an example. Have you ever been to Disney World or Disneyland?
Yes.
Have you noticed that? Did you feel the Disney magic at all? Okay. Did you see the kids thinking it was magical?
A little bit. Until they experience the long lines.
Right. But when they first enter, so when you enter the Magic Kingdom or Disneyland, it's Main Street, USA. Which is really a reflection of Marceline, Missouri, where Walt was between age 5 and 10. He tried to spend the rest of his life to recapture his sense of belonging when he was there. That Disney magic is based on two universal themes. The first one is very easy to find. about 10% of the value. The second one is really hard to find. I've never had a parent do it. But one example I like to give is their 12-year-old daughter did know how to do it after she was going through that book for 2 years. And I'd say, okay, this to the mom, what's the second universal thing? I can't find it. And then her daughter goes, Mom, it's right here. And she looks down and she's like, I went through that so many times. How did I miss that? I said, well, did I do my job? Your 12-year-old daughter can comprehend better than you can, and you have a master's degree. Well, that got her attention. That kid never had any more reading problems for the rest of her education. All right. So you get an audiobook that's in the kid's interest, preferably a couple of years ahead of where they're supposed to be so they can grow into it. You get the audiobook, you can almost certainly find a good, get the same book that is printed.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. I love it. Thank you. How can we nurture self-belief in dyslexic kids?
Again, focus on their articulation at home. I'm sorry, their focus on their speciality at home. Work with them so they can learn from the specific to the general, and focus on word analysis followed by articulation. And follow that process I just showed you.
Right.
And then you can go ahead. What we do is we show parents really how to develop that problem into body paragraphs that are more evolved than a lot of AP English kids ever work with. And we start doing that in 6th grade. We actually move them ahead of the reading and writing skills of a lot of AP English kids. See, the thing about dyslexia is that people think it's a reading problem. That's a symptom. Like when you have a cold, the problem's in your chest, in your lungs. The nose is just a symptom. The struggling with reading is a symptom. It's not the underlying cause.
Thank you. Makes sense. Makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions, or does that pretty much cover it all?
That's pretty much covered all. Is there anything I haven't asked that you would like to share?
Nope. Just if parents would like to learn more about us, we send you a custom link, so you'll put it in the show description. They can click on that. What'll happen is it'll bring you to a landing page where you can just fill out a few simple questions, and you get a report that says the 3 reasons your child's having trouble in school due to dyslexia and how to get past it. And it sets up a time where you can get a free 15-minute conversation with me where I talk to you and your child, go over the 2 questions we went through earlier, and the kids are normally shocked, like, how did you know? I said, well, you think you're the only one who's gone through this? Is this how you'd like to overcome your reading and writing concerns? I normally get a yes. If it's no, I'm not for you. And if it's a yes, then I just talk to the parents of how we can show them to teach their kids to overcome their reading and writing concerns. You can do it at home and not go broke paying $70,000 a year to a private dyslexic school or $200 an hour for an Orton certified person. Right? Parents can do this at home. 10, 15, 20-minute sessions, 2-3 times a week, and see quick progress. And if that's not convenient, you can always go to Dyslexia Classes. Again, it's dyslexiaclasses.com, plural. And there's a contact me form there. Fill that out, and I'll be happy to get right back to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to have you. We will include everything in episode notes. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.